In today's episode, we're exploring 5 dumbest ways people got themselves mauled by animals. From a drunk camper's midnight confrontation with a black bear to an overconfident hiker who tried to stare down a mountain lion. But first, let's begin with the first story, where one woman's quest for the perfect Instagram photo cost her everything. It was July 4th, 2016, and Yellowstone National Park buzzed with Independence Day crowds eager to witness America's most famous wilderness. The morning sun cast golden light across the Lamar Valley, where bison grazed peacefully and tourists lined the roadways with cameras and binoculars. The air was crisp and clear, perfect for wildlife viewing. But beneath the postcard beauty lay constant reminders of nature's unpredictable power. Warning signs dotted every trail. Visitor centers played safety videos on loop, and park rangers repeatedly emphasized one crucial rule: maintain at least 100 yards distance from bears and wolves. Ashley Chen had been documenting her cross-country road trip for 3 weeks, posting daily updates to her growing Instagram following. At 24, she was a recent college graduate from San Francisco who had decided to spend her summer exploring America's national parks before starting her marketing career in the fall. Her social media presence had become an obsession. Every meal, every sunset, every wildlife sighting needed to be captured and shared with her 2,000 followers who eagerly awaited her next adventure. Ashley's posts had grown increasingly daring as her trip progressed. She had photographed herself dangerously close to bison in Badlands National Park, posed on cliff edges in the Grand Canyon, and waded into swift rivers for dramatic shots. Each risky photo garnered more likes and comments than the last, feeding her growing addiction to social media validation. Grizzly bears are among North America's most powerful predators, with adult females weighing up to 400 pounds and males reaching over 600 pounds. Mother grizzlies with cubs are particularly dangerous, as their protective instincts make them extremely aggressive toward any perceived threat. These bears can run up to 35 miles per hour, faster than any human, and their massive claws and teeth can inflict devastating injuries. Park regulations require visitors to maintain at least 100 yards distance from bears, roughly the length of a football field, because grizzlies can cover that distance in seconds when charging. That morning, Ashley had spotted what she considered the perfect photo opportunity: a mother grizzly with 2 small cubs foraging for berries near the popular Specimen Ridge Trail. Other tourists were observing and photographing the bears from the required safe distance, using telephoto lenses and binoculars. But Ashley wanted something more dramatic: a selfie with the bear family visible in the background, the kind of shot that would go viral and establish her as a serious adventure photographer. Ashley left the designated viewing area and began approaching the bears, ignoring the horrified whispers and warnings from other tourists. She had convinced herself that the bears looked calm and docile, focused on their foraging and unaware of human presence. She was now within 15 feet of the bear family, well inside the animal's critical space, when the mother grizzly made her decision. The attack was swift and devastating. The 400-pound grizzly charged with explosive speed, covering the distance between them in less than 3 seconds. Ashley turned to run, but managed only 2 steps before the bear's massive paw struck her between the shoulder blades, sending her tumbling face first into the rocky ground. The impact alone was enough to crack several ribs and knock the wind from her lungs. The grizzly was on her immediately, using her powerful jaws to grab Ashley by the back of the neck and shake her like a rag doll. The bear's teeth punctured Ashley's skull, crushing bone and tearing through vital tissue. Ashley's body went limp as the massive predator continued her assault, driven by pure maternal instinct to eliminate any threat to her cubs. The bear's claws raked across Ashley's torso, tearing through clothing and flesh with surgical precision. Each swipe opened deep gashes that severed muscles and arteries, causing massive blood loss. The grizzly's powerful jaws clamped down on Ashley's head repeatedly, the crushing force fracturing her skull in multiple places and causing catastrophic brain trauma. The entire attack lasted less than 30 seconds, but the damage was irreversible. Ashley's body lay motionless on the trail, blood pooling beneath her shattered skull, while the mother grizzly stood guard over her cubs. Other tourists had been filming and photographing from the safe distance, capturing the entire horrific encounter. Their screams and shouts attracted the attention of nearby park rangers, who arrived within minutes but could only confirm what everyone already knew. Ashley was dead, her quest for the perfect selfie having cost her everything. The Yellowstone investigation ruled Ashley's death the result of visitor negligence and failure to follow established safety protocols. The mother grizzly and her cubs were monitored but not relocated, as park officials determined the bear had acted defensively to protect her young. But Ashley wasn't the only person whose poor judgment led to a deadly encounter with a powerful predator. In the Great Smoky Mountains, a drunk camper's midnight confrontation with a black bear would prove equally fatal. It was September 15, 2014, and the Great Smoky Mountains National Park settled into the quiet darkness of a cool autumn night. The Elkmont campground, nestled among towering hardwoods just beginning their fall color change, hosted dozens of campers enjoying the perfect weather and spectacular scenery. The air carried the scent of wood smoke from campfires and the earthy smell of fallen leaves, while the distant calls of owls and the rustle of small animals created the peaceful soundtrack of wilderness camping. Jake Morrison had arrived at the campground 3 days earlier, seeking solitude and clarity after a devastating breakup that had ended his 5-year relationship and left him questioning everything about his future. At 29, he was a software developer from Nashville who had never been much of an outdoorsman, but he had convinced himself that a solo camping trip would help him process his emotions and figure out his next steps. What he hadn't planned on was drinking his way through the pain instead of confronting it. Jake's campsite was a disaster zone that violated every basic rule of bear safety. Empty beer cans littered the picnic table. Food wrappers were scattered across the ground, and a cooler full of snacks sat open and unattended. He had ignored the detailed bear safety information provided at check-in, dismissing the warnings as overblown scare tactics designed to frighten inexperienced campers. His attitude was that black bears were essentially large raccoons, more afraid of humans than dangerous to them. Black bears are North America's most common bear species, with adults weighing between 200 and 400 pounds. While generally less aggressive than grizzlies, black bears become extremely dangerous when defending food sources or feeling cornered. They possess incredible strength, with the ability to break down doors and tear apart cars in search of food. Their powerful claws and teeth can inflict devastating injuries, and their speed and agility make escape nearly impossible once an attack begins. Most importantly, black bears that associate humans with food often become aggressive and must be destroyed by wildlife officials. That evening, Jake had consumed nearly a dozen beers while sitting around his campfire, drowning his sorrows and growing increasingly belligerent about his ex-girlfriend and his perceived failures in life. As the night wore on, and other campers retired to their tents, Jake continued drinking and making noise, oblivious to the wildlife activity around him. He had left food scattered around his campsite, creating an irresistible attractant for the park's bear population. Around 2 a.m., Jake stumbled out of his tent to relieve himself and noticed a large black bear at his picnic table, methodically working through the snacks and garbage he had left out. The 300-pound male bear was focused on the easy meal, but he was also alert to Jake's presence. In his intoxicated state, Jake saw this as a personal affront. The bear was stealing his food and invading his space. Instead of retreating to his tent and waiting for the bear to leave, Jake decided to confront the animal. He began yelling and cursing at the bear, demanding that it leave his campsite. When the bear continued eating, Jake escalated his aggression, throwing empty beer cans and rocks at the massive predator. His alcohol-impaired judgment had convinced him that he could intimidate the bear into retreating. The bear's response was immediate and violent. Feeling cornered and threatened while defending a valuable food source, the 300-pound predator charged Jake with surprising speed. Jake tried to run, but his intoxicated state made coordination impossible, and he stumbled and fell within seconds of the bear's charge. The black bear was on him immediately, using its powerful claws to rake across Jake's face and torso. The bear's claws, designed for climbing trees and tearing apart logs, sliced through Jake's clothing and flesh like razors. Deep gashes opened across his chest and arms, severing muscles and arteries while causing massive blood loss. The bear's jaws clamped down on Jake's shoulder, the crushing force breaking bones and tearing through vital tissue. Jake's screams echoed through the campground as the bear continued its assault. Driven by a combination of food defense and territorial aggression, the predator's teeth punctured Jake's neck and face, causing catastrophic trauma to his airway and major blood vessels. Jake's struggles grew weaker as blood loss and shock set in. The bear's continued attack opened multiple wounds across his torso and limbs, each injury contributing to his rapid deterioration. Within minutes, Jake's movements ceased as massive blood loss and trauma overwhelmed his system. The bear maintained its aggressive posture over Jake's body for several minutes before returning to the food at the picnic table. Other campers, awakened by Jake's screams, had called park rangers and were maintaining safe distances while the bear finished its meal and eventually wandered back into the forest. Park rangers arrived within 20 minutes but could only confirm Jake's death and secure the scene. The investigation revealed the extent of Jake's safety violations and his intoxicated state at the time of the attack. The aggressive bear was tracked and destroyed the following day, as it had become habituated to human food sources and posed an ongoing threat to campers. Jake's death prompted increased enforcement of food storage regulations and mandatory bear safety briefings for all campers. His family struggled to understand how their son's pain over a breakup had led to such reckless behavior and ultimately cost him his life. But alcohol wasn't the only factor that led people to make deadly decisions around dangerous wildlife. In Florida, a college student's need to prove his fearlessness would lead to a fatal encounter with one of the ocean's most dangerous predators. It was August 11th, 2017, and New Smyrna Beach stretched along Florida's Atlantic coast under a blazing summer sun that had drawn thousands of spring breakers to its famous shores. The beach, known worldwide as the shark bite capital of the world, buzzed with the energy of college students on vacation. But red warning flags snapped in the ocean breeze, and lifeguard announcements echoed across the sand every few minutes. The water was murky from recent storms, visibility was poor, and marine biologists had reported increased shark activity in the area over the past week. Tyler Brooks had arrived from the University of Georgia with his girlfriend Sarah, ready to spend a week celebrating the end of summer classes before his senior year began. 22, Tyler was known among his fraternity brothers for his willingness to take dangerous dares and his need to prove his fearlessness in any situation. He had spent the day drinking beer on the beach, growing increasingly boisterous and dismissive of the safety warnings that lifeguards had been broadcasting since dawn. Sarah had grown increasingly concerned about Tyler's reckless behavior. He had a pattern of escalating his stunts when he felt his masculinity was being questioned, and the combination of alcohol and peer pressure often led him to make dangerous decisions. That afternoon, as they watched other swimmers staying close to shore due to the shark warnings, Tyler had begun making jokes about the paranoid beachgoers and boasting about his swimming abilities. Bull sharks are among the most dangerous sharks in the world, responsible for more attacks on humans than any other species except great whites. They are aggressive, territorial predators that can grow up to 11 feet long and weigh over 500 pounds. Bull sharks are unique among sharks for their ability to swim in both salt and fresh water, and they often hunt in shallow coastal waters where humans swim. They are ambush predators with incredibly powerful jaws that can exert over 1,300 pounds of pressure per square inch, and their serrated teeth are designed to tear through flesh and bone. As the afternoon wore on and Tyler's alcohol consumption increased, he became fixated on a sandbar visible about 200 yards offshore. Despite the red warning flags and repeated lifeguard announcements about dangerous marine life, Tyler announced his intention to swim out to the sandbar and back. Sarah pleaded with him to reconsider, but Tyler dismissed her concerns and bet her $100 that he could make the swim safely. The lifeguards had specifically warned against swimming to the sandbar, explaining that the murky water and drop-offs around the formation created ideal hunting conditions for sharks. It was approaching dusk, prime feeding time for many shark species, and the recent storms had stirred up the water, reducing visibility to just a few feet. Tyler entered the water despite Sarah's protests and the lifeguards' attempts to stop him. The murky water was warm and choppy, with poor visibility that made it impossible to see more than a few feet in any direction. Tyler began swimming toward the sandbar with strong, confident strokes, unaware that his splashing and movement were creating vibrations that would attract any predators in the area. Halfway to his destination, Tyler encountered the territorial male bull shark that had been hunting in the shallow waters around the sandbar. The 8-foot, 300-pound predator had been attracted by the vibrations of Tyler's swimming. In the murky water, Tyler never saw the shark approaching from below. The attack was swift and devastating. The bull shark struck Tyler's left leg with explosive force, its massive jaws clamping down just above the knee. The shark's serrated teeth sliced through muscle, bone, and major arteries with surgical precision, severing Tyler's femoral artery and causing immediate, massive blood loss. Tyler's scream echoed across the water as the shark's powerful bite crushed his leg bones and tore away large chunks of tissue. The shark released its initial grip and circled for a second attack, drawn by the blood now spreading through the water. Tyler tried desperately to swim toward shore, but his severed leg made movement nearly impossible, and the blood loss was already causing weakness and disorientation. The bull shark struck again, this time targeting Tyler's torso, its jaws clamping down on his ribcage and puncturing vital organs. The second bite was even more devastating than the first. The shark's teeth penetrated Tyler's chest cavity, crushing ribs and tearing through his lungs and heart. Tyler's struggles grew weaker as massive blood loss and internal trauma overwhelmed his system. The water around him turned red as his life ebbed away in the murky depths. Sarah watched in horror from the beach as the water around Tyler turned crimson. Lifeguards launched rescue boats immediately, but by the time they reached the attack site, Tyler had already succumbed to his injuries. His body was recovered and brought to shore, but the massive trauma from the shark bites had been unsurvivable. The investigation revealed that Tyler had ignored multiple safety warnings and entered the water during the most dangerous conditions possible. Tyler's death prompted increased shark safety measures at New Smyrna Beach and served as a tragic reminder of the ocean's hidden dangers. But the ocean wasn't the only place where people's poor judgment led to deadly encounters with apex predators. In the Florida Everglades, a wannabe social media influencer's quest for viral fame would bring her face to face with one of America's most dangerous reptiles. It was May 28, 2015, and the Florida Everglades shimmered under the intense subtropical sun, a vast wilderness of sawgrass marsh and cypress swamps that stretched endlessly toward the horizon. The Anhinga Trail in Everglades National Park was bustling with tourists eager to photograph the abundant wildlife, but warning signs lined every boardwalk and viewing area, reminding visitors of the very real dangers lurking in the murky waters below. The air was thick with humidity and the buzz of insects, while the occasional splash of an alligator served as constant reminders that this was untamed wilderness. Madison Taylor had driven down from Orlando specifically to create content for her struggling social media accounts. At 26, she was a part-time retail worker who dreamed of becoming a full-time influencer, but her modest following of 3,000 Instagram followers wasn't generating the income or opportunities she desperately wanted. She had been posting increasingly dangerous stunts and provocative content, but nothing had gone viral, and her engagement rates remained disappointingly low. Madison's posts had grown more desperate and attention-seeking over the past few months. She had filmed herself trespassing in abandoned buildings, posing on highway overpasses, and getting uncomfortably close to various animals at petting zoos and wildlife parks. Each risky post was accompanied by hashtags like #NoFear and #DoItForTheGram, but the likes and comments never reached the levels she needed to monetize her content. American alligators are apex predators that have remained virtually unchanged for millions of years, perfectly adapted for their role as ambush hunters in aquatic environments. Adult males can reach lengths of 14 feet and weights exceeding 1,000 pounds, with jaw muscles capable of exerting over 3,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. Despite their reputation for being sluggish, alligators can move with explosive speed when attacking, launching themselves out of water or across land at speeds up to 35 miles per hour. Their powerful tails can break bones, and their death roll technique is designed to disorient and drown prey while tearing flesh from bone. That afternoon, Madison had spotted what she considered the perfect opportunity for viral content: a massive male alligator sunning himself on a muddy bank just off the main boardwalk. The 12-foot, 500-pound reptile appeared motionless in the heat, his prehistoric form creating an impressive backdrop for the kind of dramatic content Madison believed would finally make her famous. Madison left the designated viewing area and approached the water's edge, planning to get close enough to touch the alligator's tail while filming herself. She had researched alligator behavior online and convinced herself that they were too sluggish in the heat to pose any real threat. She waded into the shallow water, phone extended to capture her approach to the massive reptile. The moment Madison's hand made contact with the alligator's tail, the massive reptile exploded into motion with shocking speed. The 500-pound predator spun around faster than Madison could react, its powerful jaws snapping shut on her extended arm with bone-crushing force. The alligator's teeth, designed for gripping rather than cutting, punctured through Madison's forearm and locked in place with hydraulic pressure. The alligator immediately began its signature death roll, spinning rapidly in the water while maintaining its grip on Madison's arm. The violent rotation dislocated her shoulder and fractured her arm bones, while the centrifugal force made it impossible for her to maintain her footing or resist the predator's movements. Madison's screams echoed across the marsh as she was dragged deeper into the murky water. The death roll continued for nearly 30 seconds, each rotation causing additional trauma to Madison's arm and shoulder while simultaneously disorienting her and filling her lungs with swamp water. The alligator's powerful tail thrashed violently, striking Madison's torso and legs with enough force to crack ribs and cause internal bleeding. The alligator's jaws worked like a vice, the crushing pressure fracturing bones and severing arteries in Madison's arm. Blood poured from the puncture wounds, attracting other alligators in the area, while weakening Madison through rapid blood loss. The predator's continued rolling motion drove her underwater repeatedly, filling her lungs with contaminated swamp water and making breathing increasingly difficult. Madison's struggles grew weaker as blood loss and drowning combined to overwhelm her system. Within minutes, Madison's movements ceased as the massive predator's assault proved unsurvivable. Other tourists on the boardwalk had witnessed the entire attack, their screams and shouts attracting park rangers who arrived within minutes. Madison's body was recovered several hours later by specialized wildlife officers using boats and protective equipment. The aggressive male alligator was captured and euthanized, as it had demonstrated dangerous behavior toward humans. Madison's death sparked widespread discussion about the dangerous lengths people would go to for social media fame. Her final video, recovered from her waterlogged phone, showed her approach to the alligator and captured the beginning of the attack. But social media wasn't the only factor that led people to make fatal mistakes around dangerous wildlife. In Montana's Glacier National Park, an experienced hiker's overconfidence would lead to a deadly confrontation with one of North America's most elusive predators. It was June 3rd, 2013, and Glacier National Park's rugged wilderness stretched endlessly under the clear Montana sky, a pristine landscape of towering peaks, dense forests, and hidden valleys that had remained largely unchanged for thousands of years. The Highline Trail, one of the park's most popular hiking routes, wound through prime wildlife habitat, where mountain goats, bighorn sheep, and occasionally mountain lions made their homes among the rocky outcrops and alpine meadows. Robert Martinez had been hiking alone in wilderness areas for over a decade, building a reputation among his friends and co-workers as someone who could handle any situation the backcountry might present. At 35, he was a laid-off construction supervisor from Denver who used hiking as both physical exercise and emotional therapy, often spending weeks at a time in remote areas where he felt most at peace. His recent job loss had hit him hard, and this solo trip to Glacier was his way of proving to himself that he was still capable and self-reliant. Bob's hiking philosophy was built on the belief that confidence and knowledge could overcome any wilderness challenge. He had encountered black bears, elk, and even a few mountain lions during his years of solo hiking, and each successful encounter had reinforced his conviction that he understood wildlife behavior better than most people. He often told stories of staring down aggressive animals and forcing them to retreat through sheer force of will. Mountain lions, also known as cougars or pumas, are North America's largest wild cats, with adult males weighing up to 220 pounds and measuring over 8 feet from nose to tail. They are solitary, territorial predators perfectly adapted for stealth hunting, capable of leaping 40 feet horizontally and 15 feet vertically. Mountain lions typically avoid human contact, but when confronted, they can become extremely dangerous. Their powerful jaws can crush skulls, and their retractable claws are designed for gripping and tearing flesh. Most importantly, direct eye contact and aggressive behavior toward a mountain lion can trigger an attack response rather than causing the animal to retreat. That morning, Bob had been hiking the Highline Trail for several hours when he encountered a large male mountain lion on a narrow section of path with steep drops on both sides. The 150-pound cat was blocking the trail about 30 feet ahead, apparently unaware of Bob's presence as it focused on something in the valley below. Instead of following established protocol for mountain lion encounters, making himself appear large, avoiding direct eye contact, and backing away slowly while speaking in a calm, firm voice, Bob decided to assert dominance over the predator. He had convinced himself that his previous encounters had taught him how to communicate with wild animals through body language and confidence. Bob began walking directly toward the mountain lion, making direct eye contact and speaking in what he believed was an authoritative tone. The cat immediately noticed his approach and turned to face him, its ears flattening against its head and its tail beginning to twitch, clear warning signs that Bob either didn't recognize or chose to ignore. The mountain lion's response was swift and devastating. Interpreting Bob's direct approach and eye contact as an aggressive challenge to its territory, the 150-pound predator launched itself across the distance between them with explosive power. Bob had no time to react, as 150 pounds of muscle and claws slammed into his chest, knocking him backward onto the rocky trail. The mountain lion's powerful hind claws raked across Bob's torso, tearing through his hiking clothes and opening deep gashes in his chest and abdomen. The cat's front paws, equipped with razor-sharp retractable claws, found purchase on Bob's shoulders and neck, puncturing vital blood vessels and causing immediate, massive bleeding. The mountain lion's jaws clamped down on Bob's neck with crushing force, its canine teeth designed for delivering killing bites to prey. The bite severed major arteries and damaged Bob's spinal cord, causing immediate paralysis and catastrophic blood loss. Bob's struggles grew weaker as the predator's assault continued, each bite and claw strike causing additional trauma to his already devastated body. The attack lasted less than a minute, but the damage was irreversible. Bob's movements ceased as massive blood loss and spinal trauma overwhelmed his system, his wilderness expertise proving useless against a predator that had evolved for exactly this type of encounter. The mountain lion maintained its position over Bob's body for several minutes before retreating into the dense forest. Bob's body was discovered the following day by other hikers who had become concerned when he failed to return from his planned day hike. The investigation revealed that Bob had violated every established protocol for mountain lion encounters, turning what should have been a manageable wildlife situation into a fatal confrontation. The aggressive cat was tracked by wildlife officials, but was never located. Bob's death sent shockwaves through the hiking community, where his experience and confidence had made him a respected figure. His funeral was attended by dozens of fellow hikers who struggled to understand how someone with his knowledge and experience could have made such a catastrophic error in judgment. Thanks for watching. Just when you think you've seen the worst examples of human stupidity around wild animals, we're just getting started. Click the next video for the next stories that will show you why respecting nature's power is literally a matter of life and death.